Hey, what's up, guys? So this is the second episode on my channel, and today, as I told you in the last episode, that things would be getting real, and we are beginning today with the basics of astrology, and we'll be dealing with the houses in Vedic astrology. So let's get started without wasting any time. Let's get there. So guys, let's see what does the first house in Vedic astrology deal with. As you can see, there is a chart, there is a layout behind me, and the first point of it says that the first house is the house of self. Yes, first house is the house, that is the house of self, that is, it is your own house. So when you go to a Vedic astrologer or you put in your details in a Vedic astrology software, a chart like this, similar to the chart like this, comes up, wherein this marked region, if you can see it clearly out here, this region represents the first house, and it's the house that belongs solely to you. So it is the house that determines, so it is the house in astrology that determines that what kind of an individual you are, both when it comes to the inner personality, the inner self of yours, and the outward appearances of yours. So when I say outward appearances, what do I mean by it? So this is the house that tells what kind of a physical body structure do you possess. So are you one of those tall, strong and sturdy individuals, or are you someone who is lean, lanky, and short-heighted, or are you a person who possesses a normal build, an average build, but you might have you might be a very active, athletic person, full of agility, zeal, enthusiasm, as if hopping from one place to the another, kind of a person who cannot stay at a single place for a very long time. And what else do I mean by outward appearances when it comes to the first house? So the first house can actually tell that what kind of a skin color or what kind of a complexion do you possess. So it is basically the first house and the planet that is the face and the planet that is placed in the first house. These both of the things, when dissected properly, can actually decipher out that what is the kind of skin tone, what is the kind of color and complexion that you possess. For example, if you have a planet like Moon in the first house, or if you have a planet like Venus in the first house, which are associated with the fair color, which are associated with a magnetic sheen on your face, then you would be definitely, you would possess a fair skin color, and you would have that magnetic and charismatic sheen on your face. And if a planet like for example Sun is there, yours would be a face, would be a pale yellowish color, like that of the Australians. Yeah, pretty much like that of the Australians. And it would be, since Sun is a planet that is considered to be very hot, it's considered to be a very hot planet in Vedic astrology. So your face might have such a dynamic, such a hot, such a vibrant aura that yours might be an appearance that you normally attract people, that you normally allure the attention of people without making any efforts from your side to attract the attention of the people who are in your surroundings. And if you have a planet like Mars in there, then you would have a tinge of a reddish complexion. Like you might have often seen individuals, no matter which part of the world they are from, they have a reddish tinge, a tint of a reddish color in their complexion. So that is because of the presence or the influence of the planet like Mars in the first house. And Saturn, if you have Saturn in the first house, or any influence of Saturn on the first house, then yours could be a dark complexion. Now some of you might be actually wondering that what the hell is this science of Vedic astrology, or all the planets have to do with the skin color. You might be wondering that the skin color is entirely dependent on the geographical locations that you are born in, that you are presently residing at, or The skin color might be actually determining the genes that you might have inherited from your parents. That is, were you born to the black parents or to the fair colored parents? But you have forgot one thing here. Firstly, whenever you go to a Vedic astrologer or you put in you cast your own Vedic chart, that Vedic astrology software that you use asks you to put in your finest details like date of birth, time of birth, and the place of birth. So place of birth becomes of extreme importance when it comes to casting your Vedic chart. Or if that place you were born at were not present in that Vedic astrology database, then you can manually enter the precise longitude and latitudes of the place you were born at, so that you could cast a Vedic astrology chart as accurately as possible, as accurate would be your latitude and the longitude of the place that you have specified that you were born at. So Vedic astrology does take into consequence the latitude and the longitude of the place you were born at. And the second thing is, and the most important thing is that back in those times when these Vedic texts were written, the dynamics of those olden times were very different from that of the present world we are living in. So back in those olden times, let's say for an example, if a person used to have Saturn in the 7th house is this particular house in Vedic astrology, this particular house. So back in those olden times, what those Vedic texts say, that if somebody has Saturn in the 7th house, which is the house of marriage and partnerships, that person according to the Vedic text will marry somebody, or will be dragged into a situation where he'll be marrying a divorced lady, or a lady with an ill character, or a lady which might be twice of his age, or somebody who is very old in age. But does it actually mean that? No, absolutely not. The reason for that is that while the authenticity, there is absolutely no doubt about the credibility and the authenticity of the Vedic texts that were written back then. I absolutely don't doubt the authenticity and the credibility of those Vedic texts, and whatever is written in those Vedic texts is unquestionable. It is irrevocably and unquestionably true, and there is absolutely no doubt on it. But the literal meaning of what was written in the Vedic texts back then has changed when we apply those similar principles or those similar Vedic theory to the modern times. So back then in the olden times, somebody who was involved in profession, so Saturn, since Saturn is a planet of profession, Saturn is a planet of going out there, doing the menial jobs, doing business, being involved in selling goods, being a merchant, and the things like that. So back in those olden times when these Vedic texts were written, being a Saturnian person, that is being involved in ventures where you are seeking money, was considered to be a defamed profession. Leave alone for women, even for men who were involved in business of some sort of the other, it was considered to be a defamed profession. And back in those days, only the Jupiterian professions, wherein yours is not a money-minded attitude, wherein you are into a profession which is very reveredly and sanctimonious in nature, like teaching the Vedic Shastras, or any subject of religious importance to those students who come to seek wisdom from you, and without charging them any fee for the teachings that you're giving them, was considered to be a reveredly profession. Or the Jupiterian professions like being involved in the kingdom of the court as or holding the ministerial jobs as an advisor to the king, things like that. Those Jupiterian professions like priesthood, or being involved in spiritual sciences, in seeking the spiritual realm, were considered to be those professions that were actually praised and given the highest importance. while these the Saturnian professions were symbolic of greed, the materialistic pursuits that Saturn is associated with, was symbolic of greed and money mindedness, and it was not considered to be good in general. So what those Vedic texts mean is that since seventh house is the house of your partner in the sense that the person you will be marrying, or any kind of relationships that you will be forming in your life, be it friendship, be it a normal girlfriend boyfriend type of a relationship, or it be a fiance wife, anything. So what is written in that Vedic texts, what they really mean is that since Saturn is a planet of going out there, stepping out of the world and working and being a money-minded person, getting involved in menial jobs, doing business of any sort. So it just means that yours could be a wife who would be a working wife, who would be a professional, who would be going to business as as men in society do. And this is what is happening nowadays. And is it bad? No, it is absolutely not. But back in those days, for a woman to even step out of her house for even those domestic chores was considered to be associated with her ill character. But let's get to the real meaning. What those Vedic texts really meant that yours would be a working wife. And since Saturn is a planet that is associated with persistence, perseverance, practicality, being a very down to earth person, being associated with maturity and wisdom too. Wisdom too is associated with the Saturn, other than Jupiter. So both of these planets represent wisdom in Vedic astrology. So since Saturn was associated with maturity, so what the Vedic text mentioned that if a person has Saturn in the 7th house, her wife would be he would be marrying somebody who was a divorced lady, or a person or a lady who would be twice the age as that of the boy. And that was practically because of the fact that the marriages in those age were mostly people used to get married at a very early age, even less than that of 10. Yes, child marriages were prevalent back then. But now what we can make out of what's written in that Vedic text, when we apply that similar principle to that modern day world we are living in, it only means that the person that you will be marrying, that she'll be very mature in her outlook towards life. Now she might be the most beautiful, she might be the most ravishing, she might be the most vivacious chick that you will be marrying, but even if she's in she could be a girl, leave alone her being an old woman, you could marry a girl who is in her early 20s while she married you, but she would be very mature as compared to the people who were in a similar age group as hers. So what it actually signifies is that yours would be not an ill character, not a divorced lady, not an old lady. You would be just marrying somebody who would be very mature in her outlook towards life, and at the same time she would be a working professional. So by this example, I wanted to vouch for the fact that when I talk of skin color, skin color or complexion, you might be an African individual who might be wondering that I have Moon and Venus, the planets that are associated with the fair color, and the planets that are associated with the magnetic and the charismatic sheen, and so why am I not that fair colored as this guy is actually saying? But when I mention that skin color, as is mentioned in the Vedic texts, it's written skin color and complexion. But when we comply that to the modern day dynamics, what it actually means is just the texture of the skin, or in fine words I can say the complexion and the texture of the skin both. So what it could be, so what it could mean that although an African, if he has Moon or Venus in his first house, or even Mercury in his first house, which is associated with youthfulness, then his would be an aura like that of a child, a very youthful aura, that everybody would seem to be attracted to this person, no matter what, even the finest girls in the country would want them to be associated with this African guy, no matter how dark is he. And this is actually how we comply those olden principles of Vedic astrology to the modern times. So he could be just an African individual who has that charismatic aura that allures the attention of one of the most vivacious and brilliant chicks in his country, and it has got nothing to do with the fair color in general. What I mean is, by the presence of Moon, Venus or Mercury in his first house, is that African individual would be very youthful. He would have a childlike skin. Even if he is a man in late 40s, he would look like probably be a man in, at the most in early 30s. That is what I just mean by it. So when I talk of personality, it is the first house that can tell how intelligent and how clever you are, or whether you possess that intelligence and that clever wit or not. So does it, like I give you an example that if you have a planetary combination that that actually says that that actually defines, I should rather say defines, that this individual would have the business acumen, he would be very intelligent, clever, he would have a ready answer for every question that comes his way. And on the other hand, there would be an individual who will be possessed with just an average intelligence and wit, that is, he would be possessing just a normal average IQ. Now, does that mean that the person who had the planetary combination, who had those one of the most favorable planetary combinations that signified that he had one of the highest IQs in there, is that for sure that this man would succeed and the man of the average intelligence would not? No, absolutely not. Because of the fact that those planetary combinations just signify the planetary energies the protons, the neurons, or the magnetic field around us. That planetary combinations just dictates that person would be intelligent and clever for sure, but how he channelizes his energy, how he makes use of his energy, entirely depends upon that individual. And this is where free will comes into Vedic astrology, which most of the Vedic astrologers don't tell people. And this is where they recommend all those gimmicks, stunts, and those foolish remedies that aren't going to do anything, because you always have the presence of free will when you study the subject of Vedic astrology. And secondly, why do I vouch for the fact that the person who had that average and just an average IQ would succeed in life? Well, he could succeed in life because although he might be a person possessed with the average intelligence, but he might have that persistence and perseverance. He might be driven to improve upon himself day in and day out, while this man who is possessed with the highest IQ might be putting in half hours in academics. This person who is possessed with just an average intelligence might be putting 10 or 15 hours in the rigorous academic studies. And it is just through his hard work, patience, persistence and perseverance, like I just said, that he would ultimately get a job, or he would ultimately be at a rank that is much higher than that of the individual who had the highest IQ. And this is the reason that if you dig into and scrutinize, most of the people who are at the top-notch positions in the MNCs, the CEOs, the CXOs, the CMOs, they are not the guys who are very intelligent or who possess one of those big short academic degrees like the MBAs or the PhD programs. No, in fact, most of them are dropouts. Bill Gates and many others are examples of and the example of the thing that I am vouching for right now. So that's why I say that Vedic astrology is a science. It's no pseudoscience. It's not a predictive science. And the words like prediction, probability of this and that happening, permutation and combination of these and these things happening, all these come into play when when yours is not a science. These are the terms: predictions, probability, permutation, combination. They are not associated with science. Science is something that is for sure to happen, and Vedic astrology is no pseudoscience. It is no scam. As I told you in the first episode, it is pure science. It just dictates the planetary energies that you experience. But what you make out of those planetary energies depends solely on the individual you are, solely on the effort you are trying to put to make the best use of those energies that you are blessed with, to channelize those energies in the right direction. And that's why there is a very important quote that I would like to iterate over here, that it is said that success has got more to do with perseverance, persistence, and making use of the right opportunity at the right time. It has got more to do with all those things rather than to do with intelligence and wit. And what else can we make when I say of the personality, it's the house that shows your inner personality. It could show how emotional a person you are. That are you one of those persons who is emotionally very sound, or are you one of those persons who is emotionally vulnerable? Now again, I would like to clear this thing that if you are a person who is emotionally very stable, of course you will have the tranquility of mind and the serenity of mind and soul that will make you do well in life for sure. But does that mean that a person who is emotionally vulnerable would not be a successful person? No, absolutely not. In fact, these emotionally vulnerable persons have got through so much of torturous, tumultuous, chaotic times in their life that they have experienced the human emotions to the deepest levels. So these people do excellent as in the professions of writing, in the professions of painting, in the professions that has got anything to associated with art, acting, cinema. So why am I saying that these people make one of those brilliant and masterpiece writers? That is because of the fact that I can vouch it by example by saying that if I were to ask a person who has the tranquility of mind, who is very emotionally stable, and if I were to ask him to write an essay or whatever length possible on the love affairs that he has had in his life, then he would probably write a page or two, or at the max he would write 5 pages or 10 pages, and this would be it. He would say that he has got nothing more to write. But this person who is emotionally vulnerable, since he has seen that both the darkest and the finest periods in his life, he puts the emotions, the sentiments, the tears, the joys, the laughter, in such a fashion in his writings that even when this person would have written 100 pages, he would be like, I had to cut short. I wanted to discuss some of those aspects still in detail, but if I would have gone on to describe those aspects that I wanted to go in detail, I would have written a book, approximately that was 500 plus pages. That it would have been a book comprising of 1500 to 2000 pages. So these are the kind of individuals that write one of the most finest romantic and the fictional novels. And the moment you pick up those novel by hapstance, you are so glued to the plot created. The intensity and the plot is of a nature that you are so glued to it that you probably are sitting on the toilet seat, and even you are so glued to it that you carry that book literally when you're sitting on the toilet seat. And yes, it's true, this is the kind of this is the kind of flavor, this is the kind of emotional flavor they put into whatever they write. And why they make good painters, again, since these people have seen the ups and downs of life, since these people have gone through one of the most vehement and violent storms in their life, since these people have seen the upheavals, the downside of life, the moment they touch canvas, it just turns into gold. So that canvas that was just $40 or $50, anyways, I'm just quoting an example, that was just $40 or $50 before they touched it, and after they finished working on it, it would end up getting sold at an auction for $1 million. They put such a class work, they use the finest colors to depict the human emotions when they put their thoughts on the canvas. It's like it's like amazing, as if you're watching a film, as if it is conveying an entire story. Even if they make a symbol on a canvas, it would be of a nature that it conveys what even 1,000 words can't. And why acting? If this person were to join a theater, or if this person was given a role to, were to play a role of a druggie, a drunkard, a struggling man, like Will Smith played in Pursuit of Happiness, or if they were to play a dark and a dry role, they would play that role. Since they have gone through the similar times, since they have seen both the ups and downs of life, they would play that role of a druggie, drunkard, a struggling man with such finesse, with such a finesse and class that you would remember that role played by that man for centuries to come.